I always thought moving into Oak Ridge Estates would be a peaceful experience. The neighborhood was advertised as a quiet, community-driven place where people respected each other's boundaries. As someone who had just retired from a stressful job in IT, all I wanted was to tend to my garden, sip coffee on my porch, and enjoy a quiet life. But I quickly learned that Karen Reynolds, the HOA president, had other plans for me. It started with small infractions. The welcome letter from the HOA arrived just 2 days after I moved in, informing me that my front lawn's grass height had exceeded regulations by half an inch. Then came the fine for leaving my trash bins out too long, which, mind you, was an extra 20 minutes past the designated time. Karen had already sent me 3 warnings within my first month, each one delivered with her signature passive-aggressive smile. But what really set me off was the theft. I had been growing peppers since my early 20s. It was a passion, a small but satisfying hobby that followed me throughout my life. When I bought my home, the first thing I did was plant a variety of peppers in my backyard, habaneros, jalapenos, and my prized Carolina Reapers. Everything seemed fine at first. My garden flourished, the peppers grew beautifully, and I was looking forward to harvesting them for homemade sauces. But then, one day, I noticed something odd. Entire peppers were missing from the vines. At first, I assumed it was animals. Maybe squirrels or birds had gotten to them, but as I checked closer, I saw that the peppers weren't bitten into or partially eaten. They were cleanly plucked. That's when I realized someone was stealing them. I decided to keep an eye out, but the disappearances kept happening. Week after week, my best and ripest peppers were vanishing. It was frustrating beyond belief, especially when I knew how much effort I had put into cultivating them. Then, one evening, my neighbor Mark, an easygoing guy who had lived in Oak Ridge Estates for 5 years, stopped by as I was inspecting my garden. "You missing something?" he asked, smirking. I looked up, annoyed. "Yeah, my peppers. You wouldn't happen to know anything about that, would you?" Mark chuckled. "I don't, but I have a pretty strong guess. Karen." My eyes narrowed. "Karen? The HOA? Karen? The one and only." He leaned on the fence. "She's been doing it for years, man. People in the neighborhood used to grow vegetables in their yards, but after a while, most stopped. You want to know why?" I already had a bad feeling about the answer. She helps herself, especially if she thinks you won't fight back. Last summer, she was stealing tomatoes from old Mr. Parker's garden. He caught her red-handed one morning and threatened to call the cops. You know what she did? I shook my head. She fined him for improperly placed garden beds and had the HOA force him to remove his entire garden. The guy was growing food for himself, and she took it from him, then punished him for having the nerve to call her out. I felt a slow, burning rage build inside me. So, what? She just steals whatever she wants and gets away with it? Mark shrugged. She's been doing it for years, dude. No one stands up to her because the HOA backs her up on every stupid rule she enforces. People fight her. They suddenly start getting violations left and right. I clenched my fists. If Karen thought she could waltz into my yard, steal my food, and get away with it, she had another thing coming. I wasn't going to be like the other neighbors. She wanted my peppers? Fine. She'd get them. Only they wouldn't be the kind she was expecting. Karen thought she was untouchable. She had been stealing from people for years, using her HOA power to silence anyone who dared call her out, but she had messed with the wrong gardener. I spent the next few days preparing my plan. If she was going to steal my peppers, then I'd make sure she got a taste of something she'd never forget. I went online and ordered a batch of ghost peppers and Carolina Reapers. If you're unfamiliar, these things make jalapenos taste like candy. A jalapeno measures around 5,000 Scoville heat units, SHU. A ghost pepper? Over 1,000,000 SHU. A Carolina Reaper? 2,000 and 200,000 SHU. Eating one of these without preparation isn't just painful, it's torturous. Your mouth burns for hours. Your stomach cramps, and you start sweating like you've been thrown into a sauna. I carefully removed my regular peppers from the vines and replaced them with ghost peppers and reapers. To make them look even more tempting, I picked the ripest, brightest ones and left them hanging right in the open. Perfect bait for my greedy HOA Karen. I needed proof. If Karen was going to steal from me, I wanted it on video. I installed 2 security cameras outside, one facing my pepper garden and another covering the side gate, the spot I suspected Karen had been using to sneak in. To make sure I got a clear view, I positioned the cameras at a slightly downward angle. That way, I'd capture everything, including her expressions when she realized she had just bitten into pure fire. Once everything was in place, I sat back and waited. I knew Karen wouldn't be able to resist. Every couple of days, she had been sneaking into my yard and taking my best peppers. She had no reason to think anything had changed. Sure enough, my patience paid off. It was Friday evening, just after sunset. I was inside watching TV when my phone buzzed with an alert. Motion detected in the backyard. My heart raced with excitement. I pulled up the live feed from my cameras. There she was. Karen, in her ridiculous beige sweater and yoga pants, creeping through my garden like a raccoon looking for food. She plucked the ghost peppers straight off the vine, stuffing them into a little reusable grocery bag. She even looked around nervously as if she knew she was doing something wrong. I had to bite my tongue to keep from laughing. She had no idea what she was in for. The next day, I didn't have to wait long for the fireworks to begin. Karen always hosted her Saturday brunches, which were infamous in the neighborhood. She'd invite other HOA members, gossip, and pretend to be a perfect host. Mark, my neighbor, had the inside scoop. "Dude," he texted me, "Karen made fresh salsa for her brunch today, with your peppers." I grinned. Oh, this was going to be good. Less than an hour later, I heard screaming. Not just any screaming, this was a high-pitched, panicked wail. I rushed to my front porch and saw Karen stumbling out of her house, her face red as a tomato, sweat pouring down her forehead. She was gasping for air, fanning her mouth like she had just swallowed lava. In her panic, she tripped on her own welcome mat and went face first onto the grass. I pretended to be concerned. "Karen, are you okay?" I called out. She whipped her head up, eyes wild. "You! What did you do?" I tried to keep a straight face. "What do you mean?" She gurgled something unintelligible, sprinting to her garden hose and shoving her mouth under the running water. Her guests were standing in shock, whispering among themselves. A few of them looked at me, realization dawning on their faces. "Wait," one of them muttered. Did she steal his peppers?" I shrugged. "If she did, I sure hope she was careful. Some of them are a bit spicy." Karen, still drenched from the hose, turned on me like a rabid animal. You tried to poison me," she screeched. I crossed my arms. "Poison? Karen, those are just peppers. You mean to tell me you didn't know what you were eating?" She opened her mouth, then closed it. She couldn't admit she stole them. The crowd saw right through her. A few people started snickering. Even Mark, who had come outside to watch the show, was barely containing his laughter. Karen, realizing she was making a scene, glared at me one last time before storming back into her house. I checked my phone. I had it all on camera. Karen wasn't the type to let things go, especially when her own stupidity made her the laughingstock of the HOA. I expected her to do something petty. Maybe fine me for my fence being an inch too high or claim that my lawn wasn't up to community standards. What I didn't expect was a full-blown HOA complaint, a health department visit, and a police officer at my doorstep. Karen was going nuclear. The morning after Karen's spicy meltdown, I received a formal notice from the HOA. Violation: unauthorized agricultural activities. Fine, $500. Correction: deadline: 7 days. I laughed. Unauthorized agricultural activities? I had a small backyard garden with some tomatoes, peppers, and herbs. I wasn't exactly running a farm. Mark, my neighbor, called me the second he got wind of it. "Dude, Karen is saying your garden is a public health risk because you don't have an HOA-approved garden permit." I raised an eyebrow. Since when do we need a permit for a backyard garden? Mark chuckled. Since this morning, apparently. Karen had convinced the HOA board, or bullied them, into creating a new rule overnight, just so she could find me. Classic Karen move. Not even 2 hours later, another car pulled up. A health inspector. A woman in a navy blue jacket stepped out, clipboard in hand, and walked up my driveway. "Good morning," she said. "We received a report that your property may contain dangerous or improperly handled produce." I blinked. "Excuse me?" She glanced at her clipboard. "There was a complaint about your garden containing unregulated, potentially hazardous produce." I almost burst out laughing. Karen had called the health department on my peppers. "Ma'am," I said, trying to keep a straight face, "these are just regular peppers." The inspector sighed. "I figured as much, but we have to follow up on reports." I led her to my backyard, and she took one look at my tiny pepper plants and visibly rolled her eyes. She jotted down a few notes, then muttered, "This is a waste of time." Before leaving, she lowered her voice. "Off the record? I deal with HOA complaints all the time. This one screamed personal vendetta. I'll be closing the report." Strike one, Karen. I barely had time to enjoy my small victory before I saw a cop car pull up in front of my house. A uniformed officer got out, adjusting his belt as he made his way up my walkway. "Afternoon," he greeted, looking over his notepad. "Are you the owner of this property?" "Yes, officer. What's this about?" He sighed. "We received a complaint that you were deliberately poisoning a community member." I let out a bark of laughter. "Let me guess. Karen?" His jaw tightened slightly, but he didn't deny it. "I can't disclose the complainant's name, but she claims you tampered with food that led to medical distress." I folded my arms. "She stole my peppers, and then she ate them. That's not poisoning. That's called consequences." He rubbed his temples, clearly done with this nonsense. "Sir, do you have any evidence that she stole from you?" I pulled out my phone. "Would security footage work?" I played him the video from my backyard camera, clear as day, Karen sneaking in, stealing the peppers, and walking off. His expression went from neutral to annoyed. "Yeah, that's pretty solid proof she took them." He scribbled something in his notepad. "You don't need to worry. No charges will be filed against you." But then he gave me a small smirk. "If you'd like, you're actually within your rights to press charges against her for trespassing and petty theft." I grinned. "You know what? That sounds like a great idea." He tipped his hat, looking like he had just won a personal victory against HOA nonsense. "Then let's go ahead and file that paperwork." After the health inspector failed to shut me down and her bogus poisoning claim backfired, Karen started losing credibility fast. Neighbors were already whispering about her meltdown at the brunch, and now the police report made its way around the neighborhood. Mark told me that half the HOA board was furious. "Some of them actually believed her, dude," he said over the phone. "But now that they know she lied about the poisoning thing, they're distancing themselves fast." The HOA board called an emergency meeting. The agenda? Karen's abuse of power. I made sure to show up. I walked into the HOA clubhouse where they held meetings. About 30 people had gathered, most of them neighbors who were sick of Karen's nonsense. Karen sat at the head of the table, trying to act composed, but her face was blotchy with frustration. HOA President Mr. Lancaster, one of the few decent ones, cleared his throat. "Karen, there have been multiple complaints about abuse of authority and misuse of HOA funds. We need to address these concerns." Karen scoffed. "This is ridiculous." I raised my hand. "Can I say something?" Lancaster nodded. I pulled up the security footage on my phone and turned the screen to the crowd. "This is Karen trespassing on my property, stealing my peppers." A wave of gasps rippled through the room. I let the video play, pausing on a perfect shot of Karen grabbing my plants. Then I pulled up another file, the police report I had filed against her. Not only did she steal from me, but she filed a false police report against me, claiming I poisoned her. I watched as people's expressions shifted from annoyance to pure outrage. An older woman near the back shook her head. "Karen, what the hell were you thinking?" Mark chimed in, arms crossed. She called the health department on his freaking peppers. She's out of control. HOA President Lancaster sighed. This is serious. Karen stood up, red-faced and livid. He set me up, she screeched. This is entrapment. I raised an eyebrow. Oh? Did I force you to break into my backyard and steal my produce? She sputtered. Well, no, but... Another HOA member stood. Karen, you've made the HOA look like a joke. More murmurs of agreement, and then Lancaster delivered the final blow. Effective immediately, Karen is removed from her position on the HOA board. Karen's face drained of color. You can't do that, she shrieked. Yes, we can, Lancaster said. We're voting now. All in favor? Nearly every hand went up. Karen looked around, betrayed. Her kingdom of HOA tyranny had crumbled. She had lost, and I wasn't done with her yet. Getting Karen kicked off the HOA board was sweet, but I knew her better than to think she'd accept defeat quietly. Karen was like a cockroach in a nuclear apocalypse, stubborn, persistent, and impossible to fully get rid of. I had won a battle, but the war wasn't over yet. 2 days after the HOA meeting, I received a legal letter in the mail. I opened it up and saw Karen's name plastered all over it. Cease and desist letter. To myself. From Karen R. You are being formally warned to cease all defamatory actions against me. Your actions have caused irreparable harm to my reputation, and I will be pursuing damages for emotional distress and harassment. I blinked. She was suing me? I had video proof of her breaking into my yard and stealing my peppers, but somehow, in her mind, I was the villain? Classic Karen. I sighed and dialed my lawyer, a no-nonsense guy named David. Hey, I said, Karen is threatening to sue me. David snorted. Let me guess. Claims of defamation and emotional distress? Bingo. He sighed. She doesn't have a case. She's bluffing. But if she wants to play legal games, we can file a countersuit for trespassing, theft, and filing a false police report. I grinned. Do it. While my lawyer handled the lawsuit nonsense, I got another interesting call, this time from Mr. Lancaster, the new acting head of the HOA. Hey, he said, I thought you might like to know. Karen has been hit with a massive list of HOA violations. I perked up. Oh, do tell. Well, Lancaster chuckled, you weren't the only one she pissed off. It turns out her house violates several HOA rules. I nearly choked on my coffee. Karen, the queen of HOA enforcement, had been breaking the rules herself? What kind of violations are we talking about? I asked. Lancaster happily listed them off. Her backyard fence was 2 inches too high. She had an unregistered shed in her backyard. Her driveway had an unapproved color scheme. She had an illegal patio extension. Her roof had non-HOA compliant solar panels. 5 violations. Each one came with a fine. A big fine. Grand total, $3,500 in HOA penalties. And because she was no longer on the board, she couldn't pull any strings to avoid paying them. Instant karma. A week later, I saw Karen in full meltdown mode. She was in her front yard, screaming into her phone. I couldn't hear every word, but I caught enough. You can't do this to me. I am the HOA. I make the rules. I'm not paying anything. I swear to God, I'll... Her face was beet red, and she was shaking with rage. I walked casually past her house and gave her a friendly wave. Morning, Karen, I called cheerfully. Lovely day, huh? She glared daggers at me, her face contorting in fury. She knew. She knew I was the reason everything was crumbling around her, and she had no one left to protect her. Karen's bogus lawsuit actually made it to court. I showed up, calm and collected, with my lawyer and a flash drive containing the security footage. Karen showed up looking ragged and stressed. She tried to argue that I had tricked her into stealing the peppers. The judge wasn't buying it. Karen says, he planted those there specifically to entrap me. Judge replies, did you take the peppers from his yard? Karen snaps back, well, yes, but... Judge interrupts, case dismissed. I nearly burst out laughing at the look on her face. But that wasn't all. Since I had countersued, the judge didn't let her walk away scot-free. Karen was ordered to pay for damages, including $1,200 for trespassing and theft, $800 in legal fees, a public apology, which the judge forced her to write. She stormed out of the courtroom, furious. I, on the other hand, was feeling fantastic. After weeks of nonstop losses, Karen finally cracked. Her house went up for sale. Apparently, the $3,500 in HOA fines, the legal fees, and the public humiliation were too much for her. The house sold within a month, and just like that, Karen was gone. The night after Karen officially moved out, Mark and I threw a backyard barbecue. Neighbors came over, drinks were poured, and we all celebrated the end of the Karen era. Mark raised his beer. "To never seeing Karen's face again!" Everyone cheered. I smiled, looking out at my thriving garden, now free from Karen's thieving hands. She had thought she could steal from me. She had thought she could use the HOA against me. But in the end, all she did was ruin herself. And I kept my peppers and my peace. Karen's losing streak wasn't just a stroke of bad luck, it was the inevitable result of her own arrogance. She had built a kingdom of fear in the HOA, but now that kingdom was crumbling. Her lawsuit? Dismissed. Her reputation? Destroyed. Her house? For sale. But I wasn't done yet. Even though Karen was no longer on the board, she still attended HOA meetings, probably hoping to influence things from the shadows. She walked in like nothing had happened, acting as if she still ran the place. I couldn't resist. As the meeting began, I stood up. "I have one last piece of business," I announced. Karen narrowed her eyes. I held up my phone and pressed play. The entire room heard Karen's voice loud and clear. "I am the HOA. I make the rules. I won't pay a penny. You can't do this to me." The audio recording from when she screamed at her own violations was crystal clear. The room erupted in laughter. Karen's face turned bright red again. She jumped up from her seat. You can't record me without permission," she screeched. Lancaster, the new HOA president, smiled calmly. "In public spaces, Karen? Oh, yes, we can." Karen stormed out of the meeting, slamming the door so hard a picture fell off the wall. About a week later, I saw Karen's front yard covered in junk. She was holding a yard sale, probably desperate for cash. She stood outside, miserable, selling her things for cheap prices just to make ends meet. I strolled by, arms crossed. "Morning, Karen," I said, grinning. She shot me the filthiest glare I'd ever seen. "I hope you're happy," she spat. "Oh, I am," I said. "And you?" She didn't answer. She just turned away, biting her lip to stop herself from exploding. Karen's yard sale money wasn't enough. Her HOA fines, legal fees, and sudden loss of power left her in financial ruin. Then I heard the best news yet. Karen's mortgage company foreclosed on her house. She had missed too many payments, and now she was getting evicted. Her reign of terror was officially over. On moving day, the entire neighborhood watched like a live reality show. Karen shoved boxes into a moving truck, her face a mask of humiliation and fury. She tried to avoid eye contact with everyone, but we all saw her fall from grace. Mark, my best friend, nudged me. "Think she learned her lesson?" I laughed. "Karen? Doubt it." As the moving truck pulled away, the entire street erupted into cheers. Neighbors popped champagne, toasted beers, and celebrated like it was New Year's Eve. Karen was gone, and we were free. With Karen gone, life in the neighborhood became peaceful again. The HOA board stopped issuing ridiculous fines. The weekly HOA patrols stopped. People started gardening, decorating, and actually enjoying their homes again. As for me, I expanded my pepper garden, making it even bigger and better. Now, anyone who wanted fresh peppers only had to ask. No sneaky stealing required. The only thing missing? A golden plaque in my yard that read, "Dedicated to the downfall of Karen. May she never return." Karen was gone, but the effects of her downfall rippled through the neighborhood long after she left. Her legacy of pettiness and power-hungry HOA nonsense had finally ended, and we were determined to make sure it never happened again. But, of course, there was one final surprise waiting for me. A few weeks after Karen's humiliating exit, I received a letter in the mail. At first, my heart skipped a beat. After years of Karen's harassment, I had been conditioned to expect bad news from the HOA. But when I opened it, my jaw nearly hit the floor. Dear Mr. Carter, on behalf of the HOA, we would like to extend our sincerest apologies for the past year's incidents. As a token of appreciation for your patience and community spirit, we are pleased to inform you that your garden has been selected for the first ever HOA Community Excellence Award. Your commitment to gardening, sharing produce with your neighbors, and inspiring positive change has made our neighborhood a better place. Congratulations. Sincerely, Lancaster Williams, HOA President. I burst out laughing. Karen had spent years trying to destroy me over this garden, and now the HOA was giving me an award for it. Oh, the irony. With Karen's iron grip broken, the HOA started listening to the community. At the next meeting, I made a bold suggestion. What if we turn one of the vacant lots into a community garden? I said. The idea caught fire immediately. Within a few weeks, we had volunteers, local sponsors donating seeds and tools, a designated lot ready for planting, and the best part, we named it after the very thing Karen tried to destroy. Welcome to the Spicy Serenity Community Garden. The whole neighborhood came together for the opening. As I planted the first pepper seed, Mark leaned over and smirked. Karen would lose her mind if she saw this. I grinned. Exactly. I thought Karen was gone for good, but like a bad horror movie villain, she tried to make a comeback. One day, I got a message from an unknown number. Karen, you think you won, but this isn't over. I laughed so hard I nearly dropped my phone. It took every ounce of willpower not to reply with, Karen, you literally lost your house. Please touch some grass. A week later, she tried to sneak back into the neighborhood. I spotted her lurking at the HOA meeting, dressed in sunglasses and a scarf like she was some kind of spy. As soon as Lancaster saw her, he stood up. Karen, he said, you no longer have any voting rights or authority here. If you cause problems, we will call security. Karen stormed out in a rage. That was the last time anyone ever saw her. The HOA, under Lancaster's leadership, made real changes. No more ridiculous fines. No more Karen-style dictatorship. More community events, open discussions, and neighbor involvement. Basically, everything Karen feared the most. And the best part, the new HOA asked for my advice on improving policies. Imagine that. Me, the former HOA's biggest target, now helping run the neighborhood. Oh, how the tables had turned. Months later, when life had settled down, I got a message from Mark. He sent me a link to a viral YouTube video. I clicked it, and my eyes widened in shock. The title? HOA Karen gets blasted by ghost peppers. Funniest revenge ever. Someone had gotten their hands on the security footage of Karen eating my ghost chili peppers. Her screaming, running in circles, chugging milk, and rolling around in pain had been turned into a meme. The video had over 3 million views. The comments section was ruthless. This is the content I live for. Some people just need to learn the hard way. Legend says Karen is still chugging milk to this day. I laughed so hard I cried. Karen had wanted control, power, and influence. Instead, she became an internet joke, a fitting end to her legacy. With Karen permanently out of the picture, life in the neighborhood was better than ever. The community garden flourished. The HOA stayed in their lane. My pepper garden expanded even more. Now, whenever I pick a fresh batch of ghost chilies, I smile, because they remind me of Karen's greatest mistake. She thought she could control everything. She thought she could bully people into submission. She thought she was untouchable. But, in the end, she was just another cautionary tale. and I got the last laugh.